Alright, I wanted to make a review video of my Swarovski 8x30 CLB companion binoculars. These Swarovski companion binoculars are offered in either 8x30 or 10x30. I have them here in 8x30. They're also offered in either this color here, which is anthracite, or they're offered in the Swarovski green. I think they're also offered in a special leather wrapped one. They're also offered in the Wild Nature's accessory pack, or the Northern Lights, or the Urban Jungle. Here you see the Wild Nature accessories pack. In the video I wanted to talk about the specifications, the optics, the ergonomics, and how I use them. So to talk about the specifications, these are roof prism binoculars. They are in magnification of 8x. Their objective lens diameter is 30 millimeters. Their angle of view is 7.6 degrees. Their field of view is 396 feet at 1,000 yards, or 131.5 meters at 1,000 meters. Their minimum focus distance is 9.8 feet, or 3 meters. The exit pupil diameter is 3.8 millimeters. Eye relief of 16 millimeters. Interpupillary adjustment range of 55 to 74 millimeters, or 2.2 to 2.9 inches. The diopter adjustment is -4 to 4 plus. The binoculars are waterproof and nitrogen filled. The chassis is made out of magnesium. They are manufactured in Austria. Their dimensions are weight of 17.3 ounces, or 409 grams. Their dimensions are 12.7 centimeters by 11.8 centimeters by 5.5 centimeters, or 5 inches by 4.6 inches by 2.2 inches. And let's get moving on to the optics. Regarding the center sharpness of these binoculars, I think they're fantastic. It's hard to talk about binoculars without relative comparisons, so I will use my other binoculars to compare to where these stacked up in some relevant competition that I've tried these hand in hand against. So the center sharpness is just as good as my Victory SF 8x42s. Those my Victory SF 8x42s might be slightly sharper, but these are no question about, these are definitely sharper than the Monarch M7 8x30s in the center and edge to edge sharpness. They're also sharper in the center than my Monarch HG 8x42 binoculars. Regarding the edge to edge sharpness, these are just about sharp all the way up to the edge, at least 90 to 95%, just like my Victory SFs, whereas the Monarch M7's edge sharpness kind of fell off at 50 to 70%. So these were significantly better for edge to edge sharpness than the Monarch M7 8x30s, and they're also much better sharp in terms of edge to edge sharpness than my, including center sharpness, than my Monarch HG 8x42 binoculars. Regarding the brightness, these is as bright as a type of binocular you're going to get for an objective 8x objective lens of 30. They're not going to be as sharp as, as bright as a full-size binocular in 8x42, but they're also much brighter than the Monarch M7's 8x30s. Not much brighter, just a little bit brighter, noticeably brighter than the M7s. And then in terms of chromatic aberration, these are not perfect in terms of chromatic aberration. Right at the center of the image, there's just about no chromatic aberration. And when you start moving about, say, 50 to 75% out of the center of the view, so the last 50 to 25% of the view, there's some chromatic aberration that starts to creep in. And I am very sensitive to chromatic aberration. For example, my Monarch HG 8x42s have more chromatic aberration than I am willing to tolerate in a pair of binoculars. And again, we're talking about the Monarch HG 8x42s, which still handle chromatic aberration super well, and those are too much for me to tolerate, where these are not. So these still handle chromatic aberration very well, but again, they're not perfect like my Victory SF 8x42s. those have little to no chromatic aberration to even speak of. And so, like I said, in the center of the image, there's no chromatic aberration. Towards the edge, there starts to creep, some chromatic aberration starts to creep in, but not anywhere that's intolerable for me. And so it's still much less than the Monarch HG 8x42s, and they're less chromatic aberration than the Monarch M7 8x30s. And so I did try these, and I found that M7s to definitely have a little bit more chromatic aberration than these. And the bulk of the image, the center of the image, these are handled very well. And so that to me is acceptable. Regarding the color accuracy, these are super accurate. They don't really generate any sort of a color cast. My Monarch HGs 8x42s are also extremely neutral. So I don't find that these give me any sort of color tint. If I had to choose a color tint, they may be a slight, ever so slight warmer or yellower color tint, but that's maybe it's very, very close to neutral. Whereas my Zeiss Victory SF 8x42s have a pretty clear green tint. My HGs are very neutral. These are probably as neutral as my HGs, or maybe a touch warmer. Touch yellowish warmer if I had to pick. Hard to notice in use. That regarding the contrast, these have excellent contrast. I believe my just as good as the Monarch HGs. Maybe the Monarch HG is a touch more, and as the my Victory SFs also have 8x42s have maybe a touch better contrast. Nothing that really stands out or I can remember. The contrast on these, I believe, if I remember correctly, were better than the Monarch M7 8x30s. These pretty much beat the M7s in every regard except for size. The M7s were a touch smaller in terms of ergonomics, and the weight. The M7's only 1.2 ounces lighter. I think those came in at 16.4 ounces. These come in, or roughly 16 ounces. These come in at 17.3 ounces. So for only 1 ounce more weight, these are great. In terms of depth of focus, these are great. How much of the field of view stays in focus front to back. These are probably not as good as my Victory SFs, but still much better than other binoculars I've tried in the past. For example, the Conquest HD 8x42s had very thin focus plane. It was very annoying. These are not like that. A fair chunk stays in focus. I don't find myself focus hunting or having to really move back and forth or adjust too much for things that are not too far in front and back. So I really like the depth of focus on these. Now let's move on to the close focus, as I mentioned, was 9.8 feet or 3 meters. And I think that was absolutely sufficient and adequate. Now regarding let's move on to ergonomics. I think ergonomics, in my opinion, for this size of binoculars is where these really shine. They absolutely handle like full-size binoculars. I can get my hand fully around this. I can use it just like I would my full size. They're extremely lightweight. I use them for hiking and travel, and in that regard, their 17.3 ounces really comes in handy along with their form factor. In terms of their eye covers and objective covers, in my opinion, they're the best of all my binoculars, including my Victory SFs. These are true, designed like true companion binoculars. I think Swarovski was expecting whoever purchased these to use them for either travel or hiking or in locations where in ways that these binoculars would be placed in luggage or backpacks. And I think these covers were designed accordingly because these are not going to fall off, and they never have. And they are a little tight and much tighter. So if you see me pull this off, it's definitely a two-handed thing. You're not going, if I try to pull these off with one hand, I'll show you what will happen. The binoculars will be lifted up. Okay, so this is the eye cover. This is how secure it is. And so I like that. And so these are not going to fall off if you're placed in a backpack or luggage. And so once they're off, and this is a very nice solid piece. And then also that also goes for these objective covers, not falling off. But at the same time, you can use these without the objective covers on, and they can easily remove. And this is as streamlined as of a pair of binoculars can be. Other thing in terms of ergonomics, the focus wheel is super smooth, and as I mentioned, is 1.5 revolutions to get through the entire focus depth from close to infinity. And one other thing about the ergonomics that this had received some critique about is the diopter adjustment. Now, I have not found this problematic in practice, but people have said this has been quoted as one of the worst diopter adjustments and is a joke. I fully and wholeheartedly disagree with that. In fact, I find this to be very sleek, very streamlined, and extremely unobtrusive. Not a focus ring on there to knock out of the way. It's nicely integrated here. You don't have to pop it out to adjust it. In fact, you just push on it, adjust, and let go, and it's locking. It's locked into place. And so it's not gonna, unless you push down, it's not gonna pop out of place. And so when I first received these binoculars, knowing that was one of the critiques from people who had purchased these, first thing I did is I went out and I tried out, and I had no problems, because when I use these with my glasses on, the eye cups are all the way down, and I have this set to 0, and that's where it needs to be. And these are marked. And each one of these marks corresponds to -1 or +1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this is very nicely designed. I don't really know. And then the 0 is actually nicked. There's a little nick there to show you that is in fact 0. And so when I use these with my glasses, these go straight up to my glasses, and this diopter setting is set to 0. And when I first purchased these, I took them out, I popped out these eye cups, I used them without my glasses, and I adjusted the diopter to correct for my discrepancy in my vision between my both eyes. And I spent a good 10-15 minutes making sure I figured out where my setting was, and there you go, and that's it. So when I'm using them without glasses, I set it to that. When I'm using them with glasses, I set it to that. And I mean, that to me is not fiddly at all. I don't even need to look through them to get my correct setting, because these are all notched accordingly, and they go right up to the edge of where this is. And so it sits out of the way until you need it, and then just boom, done, or boom, done. And so I think the critique is not warranted, but everybody has their opinions. As I mentioned, these are made out of magnesium, and they're ultra lightweight. Now, what else about the ergonomics? When I'm holding these, I can get with the interpupillary distance adjusted all the way to the smallest it can be. I still have clearance for my fingers. I do have skinny fingers. That's probably also why I'm able to adjust this with no problem while looking through them. But I don't think the critique's deserved. And people usually don't have eyes that are this narrow, so you're probably going to have still some more room for your fingers, and that's with the probably what's. So you can hold these, and these indents right here fit right nicely. And there's a little bit of an angle on my finger when using the focus knob. Not that bad. Like, it would be perfect if it was there, but I mean, there's got to be some compromise with binoculars that are this compact. Next, about the ergonomics, the eye cups. The eye cups are actually made out of metal. This is metal, made out of metal, which is none of my binoculars, no binoculars I've ever used have eye cups made out of metal. And these are the best feeling eye cups I've ever used without question. I mean, it feels like a high quality Zeiss or Nikon lab grade microscope, like when you're switching through the lenses, and so it just snaps right in place. With that said, this only has one setting, and for me it works perfectly. Once this is out, it's as if these were designed around my face. This is the right distance for me. So not everybody, that may be a limitation to other people who need different eye cup positions. These only have one. They work for me, so I'm happy, but I could see how it could be problematic for other people who need different levels. For example, my Zeiss, those have like 3 or 4 positions to adjust this. And I also like how blacked out these are inside. I get no reflections, and they just, my eyes sit right in there, and I get a fantastic view. Now, more regarding the ergonomics, let's talk about the neck strap. So here, neck straps are usually either on or off, and then to remove them or put them back on is a big headache because you have to go through the loop, back in, and weave the strap in and out. And it's really, these are actually super sleek. When I initially got them, I thought they struck me as a little gimmicky, but in a little bit to get learning curve to get used to how to get these on and off. But once you figure it out, this is way, like, I thought it was a little gimmicky and fiddly, but these are way, way, way less time consuming or gimmicky and fiddly than taking a strap on and off. And I'll just show you how that works. So there's a spacer grommet here. Then you would want to pop this back into place, and it snaps in, and then you're good to go. Place it right in there. Nope. See, as I mentioned, it's not perfect. It's a touch fiddly, but once you get the hang of it, there you go. You push it in, and it snaps into place. And that's it. It's done. This is not going to fall out, and that's how you would do the other side as well. And I'll do that for you here. Pops out. Grommet comes out. This goes in. Needs to be snapped in and lined up, pushed in, and that's it. There you go. You just saw right there on video how easy it was to put those on, and I'll take them off for you to demonstrate that. And these smooth, very smooth. And then you undo this one side, pop the little button out, put the spacer on. There you go. There's one side. And here comes the next. And this is just about how long it takes or how fiddly it is every time. I am not going to re-record this to try to get a perfect on and off, because this is how I use it in practice. And there you go. That's it. And then if I want, what else could I tell you about the ergonomics? So the way, and so I mentioned they're very lightweight. This is, interestingly enough, is part of the magnesium chassis. I thought that was a nice touch. Swarovski bird here. What else can I tell you? It's very smooth focus wheel, ultra lightweight, very ergonomic. These handle absolutely like full-size binoculars. If I'm out and about and I'm using these in hiking or travel, I never feel as though I missed out on a view or a viewing opportunity because it wasn't as pleasurable because I didn't bring my Victory SF 8x42s. Of course, these aren't full-size binoculars, but I would say if you just want one that you know you're going to use only when hiking or traveling or taking to maybe the theater or opera, this fits the bill. The only limitation I can think of is in night viewing or really dark, or maybe trying to stargaze. Not that you can't, but maybe at night not be as bright for those. But in daylight conditions, just the form factor and the weight, these are absolutely fantastic binoculars. And I believe they're absolutely appropriately named as companions, because I really do think that they are. And so how do I use these binoculars? I use these binoculars in conjunction with my Zeiss Victory SF 8x42. So if I'm going to go out glass for a long period of time and I know I'm going to be in a location using my binoculars extensively, and I'm not traveling, I'll take my Victory SF 8x42s. But now if I'm hiking, or if I'm not sure if I will need to use binoculars, but I just kind of want to have them, or if I'm traveling, or I need something a little bit more discreet because I'm going to a play or a symphony or the opera, I will take these. I don't need to take something that's this big, to those different locations. So whenever I need to travel or have a compact set of binoculars, I grab these every time. And now, because of that, I absolutely take binoculars to places I wouldn't have more often. And so I would almost argue that these might get more use, possibly, than my Victory SFs, because when I'm unsure, or there's a low threshold for me to grab these and take them because of how compact they are, because of how easy it is to remove this neck strap, and also because of how confident I am that these covers are not going to fall off when I'm putting them in my backpack or luggage. And because of that, I'm also willing to not pack the binoculars in their soft case, and that also reduces bulk and weight. Whereas my full-size Victory SFs, I'm not confident that these covers are not going to fall off in the luggage or my backpack. I'm not confident that the covers on the front won't fall off in my luggage or backpack with my full-size binoculars. So then, because that's the case, I'm compelled to carry them with the carrying case. So not only at that point, they also become more, the already larger, bulkier binoculars become even larger and bulkier, because I then have to put my Victory SFs in this type of case, in its carry case. And so now if you compare what I have to do for that compared to these, now we're talking about this versus something that's ginormous. I mean, it is not even a comparison. In addition to that, if I travel or something, I might even decide to remove the neck strap. And in that case, there's another barrier for me to not want to take my full-size binoculars because of how much of a headache it is to remove the neck strap. So the way I use these is they're just exactly that, like a companion. I pop off my neck strap, I slap on my covers, I leave this behind. I might even sometimes just throw these in a plastic bag or like a Ziploc bag if I'm putting in luggage, just so it's one extra level of protection, and it keeps the dust from getting on the pair of binoculars. But that's it. I'll travel with these just like this. I'm confident these aren't going to fall off. It was less than 30 seconds to take the neck strap off. I'm confident these won't fall off, and I throw them in a plastic bag and put them in my luggage or my backpack, and that's it. Whereas so these are a lot more, get a lot more use because of its ergonomics, the ease of use, the well thought out eye covers and objective covers that you're confident are not going to fall off and damage your glass. And that's it. So then from that point, as long as you're not throwing your backpack or dropping your luggage, as long as you have these in a set of plastic bag for dust protection, and these are pretty robust too. You're confident that they'll be fine. And not to mention, Swarovski has one of the best warranties. So I'm careful, absolutely, but I'm not super worried if I inadvertently damage these somehow, which in 2 years I've traveled with these. I've thrown them in luggage, I've thrown them in my backpack, and that too, not in a soft cover, in just a Ziploc bag. They still work great. And if something breaks for whatever reason, Swarovski is going to stand behind they're probably going help you out in terms of repairs and warranty them. I've pretty much not had to, but I plan to use these for years to come. And so this was a very exciting review for you. I hope this helps you to think about how you may or may not use binoculars and what to look for. And if you're on the fence of whether to get these or not, of course, everybody's preferences are different. Everybody's needs are different. But I would say absolutely give these a try if you're interested at all. I believe they do even carry them at Bass Pro Shops, where you could actually walk in and just look through a pair if they have them in stock. And that's actually what sold me on these. I went into a Bass Pro Shop and I looked through a pair. They didn't have 8x30s, but they had a pair of 10x30s. I looked through them and I was super happy. And I saw that they corrected for my vision beyond infinity, and I saw that it had maybe, from my recollection, the 10x30s had more chromatic aberration than these, but it wasn't too much. And that said, okay, I'm willing to give these a shot. And so I got a pair of 8x30s, and I've been super happy. And so using this in combination with my full-size binoculars has been awesome. I don't feel like I'm missing out on the view of my full-size binoculars, even though they are better. When I have these, I don't feel like I'm missing out on the view of my full-size binoculars because these are so close to alpha. I don't know if you could really call them alpha, but these are just right there. And in practice, all this other stuff about the ergonomics make these a dream to use. Make me and also I'm more likely to take them, and at times I wouldn't. And that's a lot to say. I mean, some people say, having some binoculars is better than no binoculars, and I agree with that. And so I've definitely had these at times I wouldn't have had any binoculars had I not had these. And so these are definitely going to stay in my collection, and I really like them. Hopefully this helps anyone trying to decide. It was a little bit of a longer video, but I think it was warranted considering there's many different, attributes to this. All right, take care.